You were listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 291, when your ex is wrong, but you're the one still suffering. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, beautiful brave hearts. Today we're talking about something that almost every single one of my client experiences in their breakup journey: rage, anger. That burning, all-consuming anger that makes your chest tight, your jaw clench, and your thoughts spin in endless loops of how could they, and they'll regret this. And you know what I'm talking about, right? That feeling when you're absolutely convinced your ex is wrong, blind, or just plain stupid for not seeing your side of things. That fury that has you rehearsing arguments in your head, imagining the perfect cutting remark that would finally make them understand just how badly they messed up. I feel this in my bones, right? But here's what I've discovered after working with hundreds of brave hearts. Rage isn't what it seems. And today I'm going to share a coaching session that completely transformed how one of my clients understood her anger and might just change everything for you. Okay, so I want to tell you about Amy. Her name has been changed, obviously, for confidentiality reasons, but we're going to name her Amy. So she has an amazing life, like beautiful life. And she really set up an amazing life for her partner too, whoever joins her. She's successful in her career. She's driven. She's set up a beautiful life for herself and her family, financial freedom, a beautiful home, travel, doing what she loves. Her ex-partner didn't even have to work. It sounded like he could just play his extracurricular sports and travel and pursue his passions. Really a dream life by a lot of people's standards. And she says to me, I just don't understand, Dorothy, how he could hate our life so much. Anyone looking in would think he hit the jackpot and he threw it away like it was nothing. And she was so angry and she couldn't stop thinking about how wrong he was for doing that. Now, a lot of conventional breakup advice, I would say, might tell her to let time heal this anger, right? Or to find healthy outlets for her rage. But we don't do like conventional things around here, brave hearts, right? So instead, I asked Amy one very simple question that really changed everything. That if you are experiencing rage, anger, resentment, or you're like super mad, you're seething, right? If you are experiencing this, I want you to ask the same question. Question is, what do you get to avoid feeling or facing by staying angry about this? What do you get to avoid facing by staying angry about this? What do you get to avoid feeling by staying angry about this? And there was this moment of silence that she had, you know, the kind where someone's entire perspective in their brain is shifting. And that's where the lights and the insights came in. It was so beautiful. And she mentioned, if I'm not angry, then I have to sit with this fear that maybe he's right. Maybe our life wasn't that great. And maybe there's something wrong with me and I just couldn't see it. Maybe I'm the one who's blind. And there it was. There it was. That's a lot more difficult to look at than just staying angry, right? Anger was protecting Amy from something much scarier, which is doubt about herself and the life she had built. In that same coaching call, there was someone who came on after her, and what we found underneath her anger was shame, feeling like she didn't matter to the world. And that is a really hard thing to face as well, right? She didn't matter to the person who mattered most. I have a whole episode on that. We'll link it in the show notes. But like when we release the anger, when we start looking at what's underneath it, it's stuff that's heavier or more difficult to address. So in this situation with Amy, her rage really wasn't about her ex at all. It was armor she had constructed to avoid feeling vulnerable, uncertain, or questioning her own choices and her identity. And this is what we could call the rage shield, right? It's a protective barrier of anger we construct to avoid facing deeper, more uncomfortable emotions. And until we recognize it for what it is, we can stay stuck behind it for months, years, or even decades after a breakup. I've seen it. Because we feel it's easier to stay mad than address those more uncomfortable emotions. And listen, I've been there, Bravehearts. I have loved being in anger, and I've been in anger still, even in my day-to-day life. Sometimes I experience anger for certain situations, right? And it feels productive. It feels powerful. It gives us an illusion of being a warrior, like we're doing something about it, when actually we're just wearing wounds. We think we're fighting a battle when really we're just spinning in place, exhausting ourselves while we're getting nowhere. It feels productive. Absolutely. But is it? So what happened with Amy when we lowered the shield of anger and rage? Something beautiful happened, right? So she realized she could both understand why her ex might not have valued their life in the way that she did, and still believe completely in the life that she had created. She didn't need him to validate her choices or her values. And she can discover from that place, right, that she could hold two truths at once. Two things can be true at once. I understand his perspective, and I know he's wrong for me. And in that space, something curious happened. The rage began to dissolve. And that's when it really hit her. And I think this is so important, Braveheart. So listen up. There are no rules about what you get to believe. You get to believe your ex regretted their choice, even if you never know for sure. You get to believe that the life you built was amazing, even if they couldn't see it. And obviously, the key is choosing those beliefs that create relief and forward momentum for you, not ones that keep you trapped in a rage cycle. So how do you know? I think it's important to look at, how do we know if we're using the rage shield, if we're using rage as a protective barrier? And there's 3 signs I want you to look at. First, your anger feels oddly comfortable, right? Like a familiar room you keep pacing in even though the door is unlocked. Of course, there's discomfort, but it's comforting discomfort, right? Second, when you imagine putting down the anger, what rushes in feels worse. Vulnerability, doubt, sadness, fear, shame. And third, your rage isn't actually changing anything. It's not fixing the past or creating your future. It's just spinning. And to me, this typically looks like mental spinning, right? Fake arguments in your head, rehearsing old conversations, taking it out with talking it out with friends and family, but never actually landing on anything new. You just keep rehearsing the situation. If that sounds familiar, I want to give you 3 powerful steps to move beyond your rage. Step 1 is I want you to ask yourself that game-changing question. What am I avoiding feeling by staying angry? And be radically honest with yourself. The answers might surprise you. Step 2, give yourself permission to feel the uncomfortable emotion underneath. Set a timer for 5 minutes and just sit with it. Notice it doesn't destroy you, okay? It's just a feeling, a wave that will crest and fall if you allow it to. Step 3, choose a new belief system that works for you. Not one that's keeping you stuck in proving someone wrong, but one that moves you forward, right? For Amy, it was, he will regret this. And those 2 truths that we mentioned above, right? She could understand his viewpoint and recognize that he's wrong for me. For another Braveheart on the same call, she was dealing with sort of the same thing, and she landed on, I'm learning that I matter, no matter who sees me or not. For me, I remember in this situation, it was he did the best he could, and it was not good enough for me. So you've got to land on what feels right for you. And here's an insight that helped Amy tremendously, okay? She realized there were plenty of things in the world she believed people were wrong, quote unquote, wrong about. Of course, in her eyes, right? Because that's subjective, because what's right and wrong looks different to everybody. But in the world, she believed there are people that were wrong in certain aspects, politics, religion, whether pineapple belongs on a pizza. But she wasn't enraged about those things daily because they didn't challenge her self-perception in the same way. And I think that's really interesting to look at. Understanding that gave her perspective. Her ex's opinion was just that. It was an opinion. It didn't have to define her reality or consume her energy anymore. And the anger wasn't productively producing anything, or the rage. And we think it is. Trust me, my friends. I felt like it was fueling me and pushing me forward. Okay? So the most beautiful part of Amy's breakthrough is the lightness she felt afterwards by facing the fear beneath her anger. She reclaimed her power. She wasn't waiting for time to heal her rage. She transformed it in a moment by changing her thoughts. Still, I've been doing this work for years, and I'm like, it happened in a moment. That's crazy. Remember, Bravehearts, anger and rage can stick around forever if you let them. Again, they feel productive. I'd rather stay angry than in love with someone who doesn't want to be in my life. I remember all of this. But it doesn't just heal with time. It can dissolve in an instant when we're brave enough to see what's really happening beneath the surface. So the next time you feel that familiar burn of rage about your ex, I want you to pause. I want you to ask yourself what you're protecting. What are you avoiding? What scary feeling is hiding beneath that fiery shield? Because on the other side of that question is freedom. That kind of freedom that doesn't come from proving your ex wrong, but from reclaiming your power to believe in yourself and the beautiful life that you're building with or without them. All right, let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy, brave hearts. And sometimes that starts by being brave enough to put down the shield. I love you. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will talk to you next time.
If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.